What'd you think of the Mayfield pick, sir?
I mean, listen, until 20 hours before the draft, 10 hours before the draft, I didn't think there was any chance that Baker Mayfield was going to be the first pick. So
amazing.
That was the most surprising thing to me. There's no question about it. I thought for sure that it was going to be a smokescreen, that even the Allen love was a smokescreen, and that they were going to pick Sam Darnold. I know that ship had sailed maybe a couple of days prior, but that was certainly a big shock for me. I will tell you this, though. I've covered him enough, met with him enough, done enough of his games. Rich, I can't bet against him. You know? I mean, he's just one of those guys. Starts as a true freshman, not just a true freshman walk-on, and he got there in August. Not like he got there in January and had a whole spring. Got there in August and won the job at Texas Tech, leaves, beats out Trevor Knight, who had just beaten Alabama, was kind of the savior for Oklahoma, beats him out, starts for 3 years, has a remarkable career. And every single time I did one of his games, the guy was magical. I mean, he just was. Urban Meyer sat in his office and told me, I was doing the Maryland game, Maryland-Ohio State, and it was 2 weeks, Rich, after Mayfield and the Sooners had gone in and won in Columbus. And so we started talking a lot about that game, actually. And Urban was very candid with me, and I appreciated the conversation to no end. I can't tell you how much I appreciated it. And he just looked at me and he said, Joel, I've never had a quarterback play the level of football against me as what Baker Mayfield did that night. He said, I'd never seen anything like it. I've played against a lot of great players, but I have never seen what he did in our building against what I felt like was a really premier defense and elite defense. And that's when I started to believe or to think like, okay, maybe this kid is not just kind of Heisman worthy, but maybe he's going to be a top 5 type of player. So with all the surprise that we're talking about, and yeah, we were surprised, I can't bet against him, man. I just can't.
Yeah, I hear you, and obviously it's a team sport, and it's a team sport where teams, certainly in college, get better as the season goes along. And Mayfield planted the flag in the horseshoe, and Darnold looked lost. Darnold looked lost against that same defense in a bowl game. So maybe the Browns got it right. I mean, I have to use that inflection when I ask that question, though.
No, I agree. I agree. And listen, Oklahoma around Mayfield, and in particular their offensive scheme and more importantly their play calling, was far superior to what Sam was working with against that same defense, right? So not every evaluation is in a vacuum, right? It's not just this guy's performance against that defense and that guy's performance against that defense. And so the offensive line for USC was, I hate to say it, I mean, they were atrocious, Rich. I mean, Sam was kind of alone. He didn't have many targets. They were messing around with Clay calling some plays, with T. Martin calling some plays, and they weren't in a great rhythm offensively, speaking of USC. And quite frankly, Ohio State was motivated. They felt like they got, ripped out of the playoff. They were motivated. That defense had a great plan. What Greg Schiano did, do you mind if I nerd out for a second? What he did is he put all of his pass rushers on the field, okay, and very similar to what, like, the Giants used to do with their 4 great pass rushers, and they would call it the NASCAR package back in the day. Well, they would call it their speed package for Ohio State. But what he also did, and this was so smart, is that he would send a linebacker as well. And so what it did, there's a thing in football called bear defense. And bear defense means that you're covering up every single offensive lineman. You're essentially forcing every lineman on the offense to block man-to-man. And that's called bear defense. And Greg created an artificial bear defense by essentially sending a linebacker into the free offensive lineman on almost every play, every passing play in the second half. And what that did is it put these 2 tackles for USC, who quite frankly were overmatched by the defensive ends for Ohio State, and it put them on an island. And Sam had really no chance. Still threw for 400 yards, but they really had no chance once the field was condensed and the man coverage in the second end was kind of making the windows too small for him to fit the ball into when he got down into the red zone. So that's what happened when USC played Ohio State. That's why Sam struggled so much, and the difference is that Oklahoma was just far superior in their matchups, like Dimitri Flowers, who might get selected tonight, Mark Andrews, who might get selected tonight, Hollywood Brown, aforementioned or nicknamed by my man Gus Johnson. They were winning their matchups against the Buckeyes.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.